Hey everyone, Scott here. Alright, let's get back to this. As you remember in the last episode of the massive retrofit of the Sevastopol, we blew up a lot with this idea. I'm going to continue to work on it here. I did finally figure out how to make this work in survival, which is going to be featured momentarily. Instead of working with a ship and trying to push it in, I decided to keep the bottom half of this drop bay a station, therefore it would not be movable no matter pretty much what you did. That did kind of work, as you can see here. You will see in a moment that I did manage to get all the pistons connected. However, some of them did get damaged and did some damage to the platforms and to the merge blocks themselves. Not so cool, but hey, this is Space Engineers. We figure it out, right, as we go. Again, doing this in survival was a little trickier than doing it in, say, creative, because you're dealing with damage, you're dealing with limitations on how you can do it. As you can see, connect, we get a little bit of weirdness, but for the most part, they worked. Except for that one that broke. And I was like, well, this is not to be discouraged, so keep trying. Decided that doing them all four at once might have been a little bit wonky, so as a result, I decided to take them out and try something else. I really wanted something that would work. So not discouraged and undaunted and continuing forward, I managed to get it to work again, but this time, hey, one at a time actually worked really well. I could monitor them a little easier, and that did work as long as they were stations and they didn't move. As you can see, success. All four connected. I thought I was screaming and cheering and I was all happy, and all I had to do was set this up as its own ship now to make sure that everything worked, and all would be great. So that happened. It turns out that when you had those pistons, all that pressure on there in the station, as soon as I turned them into a ship, they kind of sprung back and hit my guy in the face and sent him careening off into the distance, or his body at least. But it worked. That's ultimately the best part, though. I did find out after the fact that if I just had limited my pistons to their movement so they wouldn't put their full length into the station, it wouldn't have killed me, because I've since done that on the second ramp. Funny as hell, though, so I thought I'd throw that in there. I did enjoy it. So moving forward here, we're just going to continue working here, because you could see I'm testing it, making sure it works. Looks like it worked beautifully. I can use this. That's great. Let's see here. And then I was just doing a couple of tests just to make sure it worked. Back and forth, no problems. That's great. I like that. And, yeah. All's good that ends good. And then I'm just going to put a few blocks in there, I think, just to make sure that I can build them together and build them up on the pistons, because I don't really want my ramp to be sitting quite that low on the bottom of this. And the idea is it's going to drop ships out of this sort of drop bay. And then they'll take off, and then when they want to land, they'll land on this, and it'll pull them back up. And you see, as you can see here, though, now, because I've got everything connected as one ship, I can now attach blocks as I see fit and wherever I want. So, now that I've got that fixed up, as you can see here from the things, the two sort of closed doors that are holding drop bays, and I'm just welding stuff up in the middle, that basically are going to work really well so far. So we're just welding up the plates on the bottom of this, and it worked out pretty good. I did run into some problems with those bays later that I'll get into, and I'll show you why, and I actually did change the design as such to deal with that. As you can see, the bays dropped down, and now I'm just welding up a line of gyros and some dead space in the ship. The scalpel that I'm using, the ship that does all my welding, I love that piston on the front of it, because it allows me to kind of weasel it into tight areas like this, and it seems to be a little safer. I'm now running it almost exclusively on battery power. It doesn't consume uranium. I just park it at night and let it charge, and all seems to go well. It lasts. I've never had it run out of juice or even come close. And just realizing I'm missing certain parts that I need, so I have to back this sucker out. But you can kind of get an idea from here how the drop bay looks inside the system. After, of course, I go pick up more parts. I come back and finish off these gyros, because they require a ridiculous amount of steel plate in order to complete. Otherwise, they're not terribly expensive. And they become important, so we need to use those for a while. And yeah, things are going well. I mean, the Sevastopol rebuild is coming well. I do end up doing a lot of changes. It's not going to be a two-part build like the last one. The last one we had a clear defined goal. It worked, it was great. However, with all the mods we've added, a lot of things have changed. A lot of ideas have improved. A lot of plumbing or techniques to deal with the movement of material has improved. And as such, a lot of the way we're going to handle things is done. Plus, with the salvage barge that I'm turning the Sevastopol in, kind of changes the way it does. I'm still trying to keep the general shape, although the shape will change a bit. I'm trying to reuse as much as possible, but as I go forward, it becomes more of a challenge to keep what I've got rather than improve upon it with something new. And if you're into home rentals or anything like that, you could probably agree with me that just dealing with a brand new build is much quicker, simpler, and straightforward than it is to retrofit something that's already there. It's a lot less work, in my opinion. Depending upon the scale of the retrofit, too, mind you. Like, if it's just a quick retrofit of some wires, that might not be too bad, but updating something I've always found in my career and stuff like that is tougher than it is to start from scratch and just build it properly from the get-go. And that could just be general observation, so don't take anything more beyond it than that. Alright. So I was also starting to get into more uses of things with catwalks and, you know, stuff like that, so I could kind of open up the Sevastopol a bit. If you remember from the unmodded build, it was very claustrophobic, very tight. The med base had a bad habit of killing people when they spawned into it because they would spawn into walls and things like that. So I had to kind of gut it as well as rebuild it. So, I mean, the only thing I really kept was the shape, to be honest with you. As we go forward here too, because there's going to be at least another couple episodes worth of retrofitting, because not only did I retrofit the Sevastopol, we also built some additional ships to support the Sevastopol. And I did a couple of other testing here, and Raven wanted to show me his plumbing underneath his station because he was been working on this. This station has been very useful to us because in terms of storage and a place to build, and plus on top of that, this is a place where we can park everything, and it seems like every time we add someone to the server or somebody new joins us or a friend comes back, they're building another ship. Like, everybody that's on the server has at least 2 ships by now to their name that they're responsible for maintaining. And yeah, I mean, it seems like when we need a new job, we build a new ship for it, and that gets a lot of specialized units that only see use when they need it. And I'm just heading down here, as you can see, Drayden, a friend of mine who's been kind of hardcore on the mining side of things. He's got 2 ships. I mean, he's got his miner, he's got his utility ship, the Swiss Army knife, he calls it there. And yeah, like, everybody just kind of grabs their own job and goes. And this is another version of his rotating drill that he's been working on. As you can see, it's starting to get even more stable, and he's able to chew up significant chunks of the asteroid without stopping. His goal was to consume this entire asteroid, and without spoiling too much of a surprise, he did it. And in later episodes, you'll see exactly how he did it. I gotta be giving credit though, because this rotating drill, he did have some trouble with it, with some of the instabilities that rotors have, but eventually we got it worked out. We got it worked out to the point where it was reliable, it didn't break down, and it just consumed the asteroid like there's nothing there almost. Just cut through it like butter. And of course I'm taking rock to the faces, I'm trying to get a good view of this. So yeah, now taking a minute here to weld up some plumbing inside the Sevastopol, and then Tyson and I got chit-chatting here. Well, you know, why don't we go kill some stuff? Because we had kind of been doing it. Tyson built a ship called the Goose that he really wanted to try out. Lots of sniper rifles. I had my San Polo all set to go. And quite frankly, we decided we were going to go test this stuff out. And for the next little bit of the video here, I'm going to hand the commentary off to some Jawas I met.
When you do the other animal, you get the power supply and it's done. Yeah, I'm coming real close to it now. Here, I'll latch onto the biggest piece, and we'll go from there. And I'll stop its momentum. Fuck, there is nothing left of it. Huh? It looks like... You know what, Tyson? Tyson, you might have hit one of the warheads inside. There's nothing but a skeleton here. We might salvage some steel plate. That's all I'm optimistic we'll get. Nope, Tyson, you fucked this thing up good. Holy crap. Yeah, you messed this thing up good. We're just getting some steel plate out of it, and that's it. But that's okay. That's okay. I mean, it's still more than we had before. Because, oh yeah, it's a good job. I mean, it's a lot of steel plate. Yeah, it definitely needs a time to haul its wreckage home, but... Alright, actually, he didn't fuck up all the thrusters in the front, so we might be okay there. Alright, I'm gonna try to get in front of this thing, and just overtake it so I can arrest its momentum. Jesus crap! That's awesome! Oh shit, I might not be able to grab... Oh yeah, I can grab in the front, there's a spot. Oh, this is going to be a tight lock catch. Actually, there's a fair amount of material here. There's more than I expected. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Alright, I'm about to make contact. And it's tempting me. I have lock. I'm going to try to arrest it. Ooh, this is going to hurt. Ooh, stuff bouncing off me. Oh, the sample's going to need some repair after this, I'm sure. Oh, hell. Oh, I still got it, though. Okay. Yeah. Maybe a little. Yeah. Oh, this is a big beast. Oh. This is one big ass haul of shit. The Sevastopol needs an upgrade to haul this stuff home. Already. I'm still rotating a little funny here. But it's not moving very much anymore. If I give it enough time, it will eventually arrest its momentum. That's okay, Tyson. There's a lot of thrusters still intact. That's good. Alright, now I just gotta get us back going in the right direction. Where's our home base? Ooh, we're a little ways away, ain't we? No, probably not. Well, we're starting our long journey home. And I'm rotating funny. Jared, I might need you to grab the tugger and come to me and with this. I can actually fly it with its inertial dampers off, okay. Because it's got a bit of a rotation that I can't arrest with the Sevastopol as it stands. But I'm able to haul it home. Good job, Tyson! First catch. You know what, I bet you Tyson did hit the warheads with it. I mean, even with the powerful sniper rifle, I can't see this much damage. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So now that I'm back, you got a little taste of what we went down. Yeah, when I was recording that particular piece of video, I was also recording the input from my side. And I thought it sounded absolutely hilarious, so I left it in there. But what we did learn was that Sevastopol didn't have enough gyroscopes nor enough thrust to really control that big wreck when I was bringing it back. It was difficult, to say the least. So I came back, started working on the tugger, gave it a bit of an upgrade here, decided that a few more gyros, a few more thrusters, and a ship that was more or less designed a little bit better to grab stuff would work better. So we tried to do that a bit. Just kind of adding a few more bits and pieces onto it here just to give it a little more stability, especially with the gyros. Now, I turn those extra gyros in this ship off when it's not actually carrying anything because it's just too sensitive with them on. So what happens is they're just attached to a switch. We then turn them off as we go. Found one more thing I need to fix on this. Do some quick testing. There was an engine I missed welding up. I think I go in and just kind of give it a quick test. Also realized that I had a few more engines on one side than another in terms of top versus sides. So just do some quick checking. See, I've got a grinding nose on the front of that, but I actually take that off in lieu of a camera a little bit later. So, new plan. Tyson shoots it, I grab it, haul it home. And we got into this a little bit. As you can see, we're catching another mine layer because just as luck would have it, a second one spawned in. With the sniper rifles on the smaller ships being really powerful, and because Tyson had, I think, 4 on his ship at one point, he could basically fire into it with the high damaging rounds. He could hit the explosive warheads in the back, and as you can see, it just went out. That's probably because he hit the explosives. The explosives got a chain reaction, which also hit the reactor, which caused the whole ship to basically go dead. It's now a hulk in space, and I just come in and scoop up the wreckage. We take it back to the what we've later called the Boneyard, or the Boned Yard. As you can see, as you will see here a little bit later, when it comes to what we do with these racks. And they basically just sit there as we need them, we grind them up. And they also make good testing sort of dummies for weapons, for other things that we test out, ships, collection, stuff like that. Coming in, just mess the ship up again. As you can see, the back section's all crumpled, the front section's dead. And the only thing we're really collecting in terms of value is mostly the front area, the front nose. That's all that's there. I try to come in. Unfortunately, these ships are designed with 2 antennas on the front, which makes it kind of difficult to get them on the very nose. However, that's one of the best spots to grab them, I've noticed. But just kind of come in. As you can see, I'm using the camera in the nose of this thing to try to grab it. I'm not really getting a good lock, and actually I get some weird physics that kind of push me back because of it. So I decided, well, let's arrest this thing, because as you can see, I've introduced a bit of a spin to it now because of when I bumped it. So just come in slowly, carefully, try to approach it. This is where, if any of you guys have noticed my Kerbal Space Program videos, the skills I developed playing that game came in handy, because it's easy for me to match speeds and sort of get grips on things as a result. And it becomes much simpler, whereas some of the guys that haven't played it and I'm playing with are, you know, struggling with that concept a little bit. Most guys will eventually get it with enough time and effort, but you know, as it goes. And yeah, so then we just arrest this ship. You can see Tyson pops out of his ship to see what's going on. I think we just grind off the nose. We kind of do a quick survey of this. As you can see, everything but for the explosives is gone. Obviously, his sniper rifle punched through the ass of it and just kind of went all the way through. But the nose is in relatively good condition. The cargo containers are there. I mean, it's not too bad. It's still a pretty decent haul. There's beacons and radios and antennas, and those have some interesting parts in them too. And I think I wanted to carry this thing home by again grabbing on the nose of it, because it was the only, or probably the best section of this ship to particularly grab. So Tyson and I pull out the grinders and we go over and we start taking out the antennas so that I can get in there with the ship to grab it on the nose. Then the center of mass and the balance of flying these ships gets a little bit easier to bring these suckers home. This Tiger does have a little bit of cargo capacity, but not too much. So we're coming back to the front of it and we're going to grab it. As you can see, without those antennas there, it's actually much easier. Just come in and get a good solid lock and click. Especially, it also helps that the vehicle's no longer traveling in any direction. So we grab it. I got a good lock. Just double check, make sure everything's good. Using those small boots from one of the mods. I don't remember exactly what mod it is, but it's in my description. And we start to bring this sucker home. Not much more to it than that. We have been enjoying that a great deal, and as you can see later, it's quite a bit of fun. We currently have a lot of material in our survival game. We've got, I can't give you an exact number, but we've got enough to build a huge fleet and build huge stations now. We're doing this for fun because, quite frankly, mining out asteroids and building is great, but I kind of like this sort of collection, and piracy is just kind of fun too. And some of the other space games and games that kind of sort of fly around in, I kind of do this kind of stuff too, which I do enjoy a great deal. What it became painfully aware is when that first San Paulo, so now it got an upgrade. So now I'm just working on it to try to build it up, building a gravity drive into it so that it can accelerate faster. The previous one had a gravity drive, but this one's going to have a better gravity drive. And I'm going to be using, again, some more mods. I'm using the azimuth thrusters on it just because they're a little easier to work with in terms of space. I'm also going to be working with these maglock surfaces that come from another mod, which I believe is called maglock surfaces. But they're basically, they work like landing gears, but they're just flat sort of catwalk plates that you can put on top of blocks. Makes it a lot easier to place them and position them, and then I basically turn the San Paulo into a giant magnet with several different sections. As you can see here, I'm welding those maglock docking feet on the bottom of this one right now. They are very expensive in terms of part cost. They do require some specialized components that the mod provides, but they've turned out to be quite useful. And there's also what they call a tractor beam that comes with this mod, which basically just works again like a boot, but it has a very long range. And again, very, very expensive in terms of build material to make. Just working on some of the insides. And when I was building the San Polo, I originally had it running off of one reactor, one small reactor. Turns out it wasn't enough, so I had to add a second one, and I kind of had to redesign the inside a little bit as I was working on it to accommodate that, just so that I could get everything in there. And we're just finishing up the external skin on this. As you can see, some of the parts that stayed behind or that weren't new still have their original paint jobs. The whole thing will get painted as we're done. It does get redefined again at some point, and it's been a great ship in terms of just a quick support vessel and or fire support and recovery vessel. I've used it to recover some of the vehicles that friends have lost or have been shot out of. And I love it. Like it's a great little craft considering it's built with large ship blocks. It does handle up to 3 people in it at once, meaning it can have 2 gunners and a pilot. And we've done that a couple of times too, which has also been very, very useful. At the time this was being recorded, the ballistics of the weapons had kind of sucked. Like the miniguns had really sucked in terms of damage. I still elected to put those guns on there in the event that I had a couple of gunners in there that could take advantage of them. They do work out okay. I've had a lot of problems with it in this particular build, that the guns seem to just fire on everything regardless of their settings, and it doesn't matter if they're part of my faction or if they're my friendships, or it just seems like if it's there, it'll open fire on it. And I don't know if that's a bug or a glitch or an issue. I'm hoping that that will be addressed at some point here in the near future, because that is very painful, and I'm still looking into the issue. I mean, I haven't done a lot of experimentation other than just not use the weapons. Leave them in off position, because as you can see right here, as soon as I finish building it, it wants to shoot upon my little scalpel, and the only way to stop it is to actually turn it off. And yeah, I don't know what's causing that. I really don't, and I'm hoping that that bug will be addressed at some point here in the near future, because it is actually kind of frustrating when I'm trying to use these things and they open fire on my buddy's ships. It is not cool. Not cool at all. Nevertheless, this is an alpha game, I understand that, and things will get fixed, and we can work around it for the time being. Again, maybe I should, if nobody has, I'll check to see the forums here, see if anyone's made a bug report on that yet, or if anyone's got any suggestions as to why that might be the case. In any case, we're almost done here, so just taking her out for a quick test boot, see make sure it's got vectoring all working here. As you can see, I'm using all those azimuth thrusters. So now we're going to chase down something and see if this works a little bit better. I think I'm trying to capture a private sail here. Now, for those of you guys that do capture these things, these are really tiny. There's not much to them. I think they got one interior turret as point defense, and it has very limited ammo. Nevertheless, you know, it still can do a little bit of hurt on you. I've got a guy in the gunner seat right now that's running one of my turrets, and we're just doing some testing. You see it's firing back and we're firing for it, and you know, it is great fun. I'm trying to approach it. I'm using my gravity drive to kind of keep going fairly fast, try to strafe it a little bit so that the gunfire harmlessly flies past me and it just wastes bullets. I didn't have any support ship with me. I just had 2 guys in the San Polo right now, just to verify that, or just to kind of test out the systems, make sure they worked. I had 1 missile launcher in the nose, and it works out pretty good. Like, I mean, it does its job. It's brought me back every time that we've gone out on one of these missions. It's a good little ship, a good little design, and I like it. It definitely did support us well. And it can also work as a troop transport. It was initially designed as a boarding craft, but it became aware that it's probably better for us to be able to haul stuff home, so to speak. So now this craft is also for capture and recovery, as well as boarding. So we're just coming by the private sail here. You can see just firing upon it. I think we're just approaching it. And right now as well, the guns in the game at this particular build at time were very poor, very weak. I might have mentioned that already, but they still did the job well enough. So I come in. Now I come in for a boarding action. Looks like it's not shooting back, so I'm just going to come in and I'm going to use those maglock surfaces to attach to it, pull it away, and grab it, and then we're going to kill the power to it so that it doesn't do something. Anyway, as soon as my buddy let go of his weapon, of course the gun just kind of went crazy shooting at it. So, again, issues that need to be addressed. So be it. Life goes on. Grabbed it, stopped it. If you do hear the random jow in the background, I still did have my voice recording on it this time, but wasn't quite as funny as the last time. So anyway, we just kind of move forward here. Going to breach and capture this thing. As you can see, the turret's still active and it's tracking me, but it doesn't have any ammo left, so it's not really a threat anymore. Gotta break in and bust in and grab it. And I think at some point too, they've made doors a lot harder to hack. Now, if you're not familiar with what hacking is, that's in this game, it's just the act of grinding down a part that you don't have access to, down to the red and blue lines, which is basically the computer layer. And once you do that, it either opens or you can then get full access to it. And you can do the same with the chairs and the inventories and the reactors and all that stuff. If you don't own it and it's not with your faction, you'll get a little access denied stamp on it, and it just won't let you in. And so you have to you have to hack it. It's just basically grinding it and then rebuilding it. I'm just kind of taking a quick survey of what we did capture. I mean, most of the ship's intact. We lost the solar panel, the cargo container's there, there's a big hole in the side of it. My buddy Drayden there is just hacking into the console. I'm looking for the power source so that I can just grind it down, because when you try to haul something back that's got gyroscopes and engines, it tends to want to fight you a bit. And if this thing is just dead, no power whatsoever, it just won't fight you. It's just a dead stick, and it's a little easier to haul home. As you can see, my engines on the Sevastopol are firing a little bit just to try to keep it stabilized. So anyway, we killed power to it. They're ready to go. Drayden's there. It's just going to sit in the ship, and I'm just going to haul it back. As you can see, another ship spawned too, but we're not prepared to capture that. So all in all, good haul. I mean, it was a good little test. Safe kind of ships to sort of approach. You can use those solar panels for something too. We've got a huge solar array that's going to get built. And yeah, and I just haul it home, and then we put it in our boneyard. Leave it there and let it just kind of sit there and wait until we're ready to salvage it, or test weapons on it, or some other purpose that we may have yet undetermined. So anyways, having a bit of fun here. Just going to kind of finish this off. So in closing, we're just going to wrap the episode around this point here. We're going to be building more on the Sevastopol here next week, and going to be getting a little bit more into building our fleet up a little bit more as we get more people on the ship. In hindsight, I did want to mention that I just reached 500 subscribers, or actually 500 plus subscribers here this last week, and I was really just wanted to say thank you to all my viewers, as you know, I didn't really have any expectations when I created this little Let's Play channel, or when I started fooling around with Kerbal Space Program, or start doing anything really with the gaming chair and all that. Nevertheless, yeah, it's growing a little bit. I'm kind of impressed, and I'm very thankful. I really don't know what else to say to that. I don't really play any instruments or do anything that crazy, so I can't really have any song and dance. But maybe this week we'll come up with something a little bit different, or I'll try to get some interesting ideas out there with regards to different ideas for shows and things like that. For now, Space Engineers is taking up the majority of my time, my free time, and doing these videos takes up what little bit left I have right now. Just kind of a quick run through of my world map here right as we're closing out, to kind of see where it's at. As you can see here, we've all worked very hard on it. It's turning into quite an interesting little community that I've developed here, and I am working on getting a dedicated server set up. And Raven just wanted to show off these blast doors because he was really happy with how they turned out. In any case, I mean, like I said, again, to all my subscribers and viewers and the views that I get and the comments and the support, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. As you can see here, we've been busy capturing ships now. There's the boneyard. Lots of dead wrecks in there that need to be harvested or consumed. Since Tyson kind of spearheaded this little sort of endeavor, he's been dubbed his boneyard. And finally, just another little sort of pass-by of our asteroid mining operation run by Drayden. As you can see, that rock is getting way smaller. I think he's on a personal mission to see that rock consumed entirely. So, again, if anyone is interested in getting involved in this game, please contact me. I will be available. I am going to be around for the foreseeable future. And, yeah, things are going really well. So, again, this is Scott Cook saying, See you in space. Have a great one. We'll talk later. Bye.